Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling smaller? Like you went in as a fully functioning adult with opinions and a general sense of reality, and you came out the other side somehow unsure of your own name. You replay it on the drive home. You question what you said, how you said it, whether you overreacted, whether you underreacted, and by the time you pull into your driveway, you've somehow concluded that you are, in fact, the problem. Meanwhile, the other person's probably fine, maybe even thriving. Here's the wild part. That confusion you're feeling, it didn't happen by accident. There's a whole architecture of psychology behind why certain people leave you doubting yourself, and it's not random and it's not your fault. Some of it is conscious, some of it isn't, but all of it is real and all of it has a name. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on exactly how this works. By the end, you'll start to recognize the patterns, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. Picture this. You're in a conversation and you bring up something that bothered you. Something small, maybe. A comment they made. A moment that stung. And instead of responding to what you said, the other person tilts their head and goes, "I never said that. That's not what happened. You always misremember things." And here's the terrifying part. You pause. Because suddenly you're not sure. Did they say it? You were so certain a moment ago, but they seem so confident, so unbothered, so absolutely sure of their own version of events that your memory starts to soften, shift. Maybe you got it wrong. Maybe you're too sensitive. Maybe you're the one with the problem. This is gaslighting. One of the most psychologically disorienting experiences a person can have, and it works precisely because it exploits something deeply human, our trust in external reality checks. Psychologists call this reality testing, and from childhood, we learn to confirm our perceptions by checking them against others. When someone we trust, a partner, a parent, a close friend, consistently tells us our reality is wrong, the brain begins to override its own input. Over time, you stop trusting your gut, your memory, your instincts. You start consulting them before you consult yourself. And that's exactly where they want you. Then there's a different kind of player. This one doesn't deny your reality, they just keep it on file. Every mistake you've ever made, every time you fell short, every flaw you've ever nervously confessed during a vulnerable moment, cataloged, preserved, ready to be deployed at exactly the right moment. You bring up a concern? Suddenly, the conversation has pivoted to something you did 6 months ago. You try to set a boundary? Here comes the highlight reel of your worst moments. It's a rhetorical magic trick. The subject is never what you raised, it's always, somehow, you. The psychology here is deflection, laced with something called DARVO, a pattern where the person denies, attacks, and reverses victim and offender. Research by psychologist Jennifer Freyd shows this pattern is particularly effective at silencing people who raise legitimate concerns because the emotional labor of defending your entire history is so exhausting that you eventually just stop bringing things up. Which, of course, is the point. The scorekeeper wins not by being right, but by making the cost of confrontation too high to pay. Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone you know. But somewhere in your life, there's probably been a person whose warmth felt like the sun, glorious, golden, addictive, and whose coldness felt like a punishment you were always scrambling to understand. This pattern is sometimes called intermittent reinforcement, and it is, neurologically speaking, one of the most powerful conditioning tools in existence. It's the same mechanism that makes slot machines so addictive. When reward is unpredictable, sometimes yes, sometimes no, sometimes warmth, sometimes withdrawal, the brain doesn't give up. It doubles down. It becomes obsessed with figuring out the pattern, earning the approval, cracking the code. The cruel irony is that the more inconsistent someone is with you, the more mental and emotional real estate they occupy. You find yourself analyzing their moods, walking on eggshells, editing your own personality in real time just to stay on their good side. And in that constant recalibration, you lose track of who you actually are when you're not performing for their approval. That loss of self? That's where the self-doubt takes root. The compassion exploiter. Here's the twist that catches the kindest people off guard. Some toxic dynamics don't look toxic at all. They look like a person in desperate need, and you, noble soul that you are, showing up to help. The compassion exploiter isn't always calculating. Sometimes they're simply someone who has learned, consciously or not, that vulnerability is currency, and that your empathy is a resource they can draw from indefinitely. Every crisis pulls you in, every guilt trip lands because you genuinely care. And when you finally need something in return, when you're running on empty and reaching back, there's a reason, an excuse, a pivot back to their needs. Psychologists refer to this dynamic as pathological narcissistic supply, where one person becomes a consistent emotional resource for another, who rarely, if ever, reciprocates. Over time, you begin to feel guilty for having needs at all. You start questioning whether you're too needy, too demanding, even as you're giving constantly and receiving almost nothing. Your self-worth becomes tied to how well you serve, and any moment of self-advocacy feels like betrayal. The subtle underminer. And then, quiet as a whisper, there's the one who never quite attacks. They just chip. A comment wrapped in a compliment. You look so much better when you make an effort. A joke that gets laughs at your expense, and when you flinch, you get, "Oh, you're so sensitive." Enthusiasm about your idea immediately followed by 5 reasons it won't work. This is covert belittling, and its power lies in deniability, because nothing was technically said wrong. You can't point to it without seeming dramatic. And after enough chips, the sculpture they've been carving is a version of you that is smaller, quieter, less sure of your own value, and somehow grateful for their company. The psychological term is covert aggression, and it thrives in the gap between what is said and what is meant. Your nervous system picks up on the hostility. Your conscious mind talks you out of trusting it. That internal conflict, do I trust what I feel or what they're telling me to feel, is exhausting in the deepest way. So which of these rang a bell? Maybe a flicker of recognition, a name that surfaced, a dynamic you've been trying to put words to for years. Maybe it's someone in your life right now. Maybe, and this is a genuinely hard question, maybe there are traces of these patterns in yourself. The point isn't blame, the point is awareness, because these dynamics only hold power in the dark. The moment you can name what's happening, you stop absorbing it as truth about yourself and start seeing it as a pattern someone else is running, consciously or not. Drop a comment below. Which of these hit closest to home? And if this helped something click, share it with someone who's been doing that late-night replay on the drive home. They probably need to hear it too.